We can't see you. Just in case you're wondering if we can see you, we can't. So you can do whatever you like. You can fart and you can burp and you can do whatever you like there. It's just us here inside the webinar. You're so welcome. So glad that you've all come to listen to us speak tonight. And this is the Clowns in Crisis panel discussion. Yeah! It's part of the Clowns in Crisis conference, which is a 3-day event that the Online Academy is putting on. And we are exploring the role of clown in crisis. So yeah, we've had a whole weekend of events. We started last night, we had a cabaret. Today I've run a workshop exploring the personal applications of clowning. And now we're at the panel discussion. And for those who don't know me, hello, I am Holly Stoppett and I am a clown midwife. It's how I like to think of myself. I help birth baby clowns into the world. I'm a drama therapist and a clown teacher and a director, and very, very excited to be facilitating the discussion tonight. So I am one half of the Online Clown Academy, and we started out back at the beginning of lockdown feeling a need to provide spaces for adults to play. In this very, very peculiar time, we thought, what do people need? We need to provide play for the people. So we started making video workshops, clown workshops, that people could participate in their own homes and send us photos and films of themselves doing ridiculous things. And we had a Facebook group that grew and grew and grew. And people all over the world started joining in, and then we started getting other facilitators to offer workshops, and it became this kind of cult in the middle of lockdown, clowns getting together over the internet and playing. So we moved on to Zoom, where it was easier for people to see each other and connect with each other, and we've been running these Zoom courses ever since. So I'm from a therapy world, as I said, and Robin, who's the other half of the Online Clown Academy, is from a protest world. So she explored, for her dissertation, she explored the what is the role of the clown in protest. And so we got chatting in the summer. At some point, we were in Bee's Garden. Bee is my administrator. We were in Bee's Garden. We were talking about, what is the overlap between my world and Robin's world? Interested in where does the personal meet the political? And we came up with this theme of clowns in crisis. So how can clowning help us, and how can clowns help other people in times of crisis? And we thought, this is really interesting. Why don't we open this up to loads of other people to explore as well? So this is why we're here tonight, to meet 4 experts, both from the personal and the political worlds of clowning, and to have a big old chin wag to find out a little bit about their work and to find out about the overlap. So just briefly, so you know, I'd like to very briefly introduce you to Robin, who is the other half of the Online Clown Academy.
Hello, hiya. I know you're all out there, I can't see you, but I can see you in the attendees list. Thanks for coming.
And I'd also like to introduce you to Bee. This is Bee. Yeah. And she is the third of the clown witches. Sometimes we like to think of ourselves as clown witches. So Robin and Bee and myself have put this whole conference together, and we're very excited that it's happening. We're very excited that you're here to be part of it. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to the panel.
But hi everybody, my name's Rachel Kane, and that's my dog in the background called Angel, who's barking away, but she's probably a better clown teacher than me. But that's what I do. I teach clowns. It's called Sacred Clowning. It's the art of sacred clowning. So I've been performing and teaching for 25 years, and really the last 10 years of my work has been really a lot around death and dying. So I have been working a lot with people crossing over, 6 of whom were my actual clown students. They didn't die in a workshop, I hasten to add, but so I help and assist people across these big thresholds. So yeah, Holly used the word midwife. I think of myself also as a midwife in midwifing across these thresholds. I've also helped birth a lot of clowns through my work over the years, many of whom are now working in hospitals or in street theatre or teaching themselves. Yeah, and the other thing that I do is I'm a shamanka healer in the Andean tradition. Love that music that we started with. That really got me into that kind. I don't know if it was South American, but it had that feel to it. So yes, and the work that I do there is again across thresholds with death rites, and I conduct funerals and blessing ceremonies and weddings and yeah, healings. And the I was pegging out the, just to finish, I was pegging out the laundry on the roof this afternoon, and I thought, what on earth would I say I am? Because actually the older I get, the less I know about anything. But what came to me was the words of a very well-known famous old clown, Wavy Gravy, and he calls himself a temple of accumulated error, which I think is just so gorgeous. So yeah, in my own way, I don't know if I'm a temple, but I've certainly got plenty of accumulated error in my time. And yeah, that's probably about it, I think, at the moment.
Temple of accumulated error, perfect. Who else would like to introduce themselves? Sabine, did you have your hand up? Yes, please, let's hear from you.
All right. So I'm Sabine Choucair. I come from Lebanon. I live in Beirut, where, well, you know, I mean, where everything is just going to shit. So I have a clown group called Clown Me In, and we work a lot on the streets. We do a lot of street performances. We go to protests. We fight for human rights and a lot for the environment and anything that has to do with political, with all the political problems we have. I also work a lot with refugees in Lebanon and everywhere in the world. I'm part of Clowns Without Borders. And so the work is both political clowning and personal clowning.
Thank you. Sounds amazing. Yes, Faith.
Hi, yes, I'm Faith. I've not got my full name up, but I'm Faith Tingle Bartoli. I work as a specialist clown. We used to be called clown doctors, but now we are called giggle doctors. I work in hospitals with children, and that's my expertise, really. I've been doing this sort of work for the past nearly 20 years. Before that, I worked as an actor for 20 years, and then I started working with it. I trained with this particular charity to develop my skills to work as a clown, now giggle doctor, in hospitals with sick children. And I also do children's parties as a clown. And I also devise with a friend of mine who lives in Finland. I don't know if there are any people out there today from Finland, but I'm devising a show with a clown friend of mine who lives in Finland, which we are hoping to get some funding for. Who knows if we'll get the funding, but we are devising and we're having a great time devising. It's taken us about three years to get something together, but we're having a great time doing that. So that is what my expertise basically is within the hospital situation environment with working with children.
Thank you, Faith. Hilary, you're the last one. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, you've unmuted me. How nice. Thank you. Okay, my name's Hilary Ramsden, as you can see. I'm just playing for time. I've been a clown actually for a very long time, since about 1977, which I kind of sort of fell into by accident, not literally fell into, although there were steps down into the class, which I could have fallen down, but I didn't. But I didn't choose to go to this clowning class. A friend dragged me along, but actually it was the most amazing thing that happened to me. And I, you know, as they say, I've never looked back since, except up steps and down steps. And I've been an activist as well, really, I suppose, since the age of 13, when I realized that when I kept asking my teacher why, and she said, stop asking why, I thought, oh, wait a minute, there's something going on here. Why am I not allowed to ask why? And I think I've always had a healthy disregard for authority. And so that's my feminism has made me really, over the years, has made me think about the personal and the political. But I'd never really found a way to combine my clowning and my activism. And I kind of always wrestled with that, the fact that they felt very apart from each other, until I was invited to teach clowning and buffoon to activists by John Jordan at a retreat, which was to become really the first retreat for the rebel clown army, known as the Clandestine Insurgent Rebel Clown Army, or Circa, which was sort of where the seeds for Circa were born, and preparation for going up to the G8, and kind of rebel clowns being recruited from all over the country and all over Europe and the world, in fact. And it was then, I think, and only then, that I realized, oh, wait a minute, actually, this whole, for me, the notion of making kind of a hybrid of clown and buffoon, as taught in a sort of the traditional sort of purist ways, I suppose, by Philippe Gaulier, Monica Pagneur, actually made for a very interesting mix of fun, yet also defiance, and which worked really well for the rebel clown. So that, I think, is why I'm on this panel, is because of that particular aspect of clowning that I like to do, which is really out in the streets, and it's really all about engaging other people who are not really interested maybe in clowning or in activism or in whatever we are protesting about, but who are interested, who I can engage somehow through asking their permission, through being charming and terribly polite. As a clown, as a rebel clown. Yeah, hi, come and join us. Sort of thing. Anyway, I think that's sort of about it now.
Thank you. Wow, what a brilliant range of speakers with so much experience between you. This feels like a sweetie shop for me. No, something more nourishing than a sweetie shop. This feels like a sushi bar. This feels like a sushi bar. I feel like I could taste all of this. So let's just jump right in. What I'd like to hear from you, whoever would like to share, is an example. If you can think of like an example when you have used clowning in a moment of crisis, and what impact did it have? So what impact did it have on you? What impact did it have on your audience? Can you think of like a moment in your practice where you've applied, I mean, I'm sure you've all got about 50,000, when you've applied clowning, used clowning in a moment of crisis?
Actually, I had a moment the other day. This is a very recent one, and it was a terrible failure, actually. But a man came, I was wearing a mask, as we are, and I think it's difficult for people to tell whether I'm a man or a woman. And this, a man started looking me up and down and said something in Greek that I didn't understand, but I kind of understood that it was, what kind of a person are you? What are you? And then he started saying punk and Sex Pistols and boy, girl, boy, girl, and in Greek, and very loud, and kind of, he was a bit drunk, and he kept coming towards me. And so I just tried to become terribly charming and say, oh yeah, what do you think about me? How do I look? Is this nice? What do you think? Should I turn this way? Should I turn that way? And it didn't work. Yeah, so it had an impact on me of thinking, oh shit, this is not going to work. And I'm going to get out of here. And he followed me. He followed us. And luckily there was other people who were sort of following as well. And then I did have to be rather rude to him. So that I felt real failure in that respect, that, oh, my clowning didn't work there. So that's the sort of most recent incident that I've had where it hasn't worked.
Interesting with a mask, isn't it? I'm finding that because I realise so much of my communication is non-verbal because I'm a clown. I'm a born clown, and so I found that with kids on buses, and I'm not able to make the same kind of connection that I was able to make before because I don't have the full use of my face, which sets people at ease, and you know I can't make that. Are you sort of on a bit of a tangent here? But Faith, are you finding that as well in your work? Are you doing any face-to-face work?
No, you can't. No, you can. But at the moment, we're not able to go into the hospital because of what's going on, basically, and we are non-essential visitors, so we can't go in. So actually, what we've started doing, we've established an online program, a webinar, not a webinar, a Zoom, not even Zoom. It's a WhatsApp visits to children and requested WhatsApp visits to children in their homes or in the hospital setting. And this is just something that started this month. Oh, actually, we're now in November. This just started in October. So it's very new to the charity that I work for. And if you think about it, when children are in hospital, it's always a crisis. It's not like a crisis like, you know, a pandemic crisis or an avalanche or whatever, but it's a crisis for the parents, because they're there and as far as they're concerned, they have no idea what's going to happen to their child, what the effects of the treatment's going to be. You know, even if they're just going for something very minor, it can cause a lot of stress for the parents, and they are in crisis as far as they're concerned, and also the kids are in crisis. So clowning within the hospital environment, you do, I just think it is constantly crisis that you're going into, and you do see an effect of how just a sound that a clown can make, because clowns don't make normal sounds usually. They make unusual sounds sometimes. Also, someone earlier on was blowing some bubbles. I don't know who it was. I think it might have been Rachel, might have been blowing some bubbles. Just the effect of seeing someone blow some bubbles in that crisis can actually change the whole atmosphere, can change the whole space. And in a way can remind people that it's okay to feel a little bit joyful, actually. So I would say the work we do, 99% of the time, we see the effect of we are called giggle doctors. We see the effect of our work in that situation, how it can turn a really dark and heavy situation around for the parents and the children and the staff. So that is the sort of crisis area I would say that we work in. And for me to know that the effect of I can have an effect in changing and creating a memory, a different memory for the children, for the parents. It's really great just to know that they can leave the hospital experiencing something totally different, that something they wouldn't have experienced before. And that's good for me to know. I feel great.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely visuals. I've got those visuals of just the weird noises and bubbles and just the unexpected coming into the hospital and disrupting this kind of crisis scenario, kind of cutting through actual bubbles of joy. I'm just thinking, Sabine, is this kind of similar to when you're working in refugee camps? Does it have a kind of similar effect that you come in with colour and noise and fun and play and...
Oh yeah, definitely. And then I was thinking that, you know, I mean, in refugee camps, but also now after the explosion that happened in Beirut on the 4th of August, I mean, kids, everybody got traumatized. And so we did a clown tour in the affected areas where, you know, we had 300,000 people losing their homes. So it was quite a big thing, and people were really in distress. And then we were performing in one place in one public garden for many people, and then we got a phone call from one of the mothers saying that her daughter, actually, who hadn't spoken a word since the beginning, since the explosion happened, went home after the show and actually told her father everything that happened in the show. And this for us was like, wow, like this is clowning really works. She talked a month after the explosion, and this is it, you know.
Wow. Well, because it does. I mean, it's my understanding as well. Clown touches something like that nothing else can. Rachel, would you like to talk a bit about that?
Yes, well, actually, I've been very moved hearing everybody speaking, and what Faith was talking about, and Sabine. It was very, very moving. And yes, actually what was coming to me also was a memory that of, I don't know what your question was, I've forgotten that already, but I'll just talk because it's coming. It's about when we went into hospice, and we were, there was a group of clowns who've been training with me, and we went in, there were a group of 6 of us, and we went into a hospice in Oxford where a little boy had just died. And he was, I think he was 8 years old, and he just died. And his body was literally still in the hospice as we went in. It was, you know, we had to go in with the absolute, so much delicacy, because we knew we had been told that he had just passed over. We went in with such delicacy, and we did go in with bubbles as usual and leading with that. And there were a lot of other children and families there who were in wheelchairs, and there were some special needs. There was some with cystic fibrosis, people at different stages on their journey. Not all were dying, but you know, all the families there had sick children, and it was just so incredibly touching. And the whole atmosphere was very fine, actually. It was like beyond the beyond, because the soul of the little one had just gone, and you could tell it was like walking into a place full of angels. Actually, it was amazing, and very humbling. It was a very humbling experience to do this work, and we were quite frightened as well, you know, as we didn't know whether, you know, how can we navigate this territory safely. So we opened ourselves as clowns first. We opened our hearts as wide as the world. We said, please, can we come to bring joy and light and love? Please, can we come to make a difference for those that need us? We offered ourselves in service. And I think setting that intention before we went in laid the groundwork. So it was all much bigger than us. We'd just become like vessels, and we just went in and did whatever we did. I can't even remember, but I have written a poem about it. I don't know if now would be the time to share that, or
sure,
later.
Well, it's here. Why not?
It's here because it was really all about the bubbles. So I'm going to do it in the voice of my alter ego, Doris Eagle Featherduster, who comes from the north, and it's called Hubble Bubble. Making magic in the hospice, kids in wheelie chairs, rocking horse with real hair mane. No one put on airs. Graces, yes, abounding there. A little boy had died, gone to join his maker. Angels round us cried. Bubble blowing in the playroom, a second little child gazed at me with open pupils, frothing but so mild. And an older lad contorted, a finger out to greet, daring to connect across the emptiness we meet. Just a fleeting glimpse of eyes, otherwise so frail. What enormity of trust, enough to make you wail. Open-hearted clown friends helped us ease the toil, and once again bubbles came. They're the perfect foil. When it's all too heavy and parents can't withstand what this work demands of them, simply hold a hand, stay with it and listen deeply. Nothing to be done. Stuff balloons inside t-shirts, because nurses must have fun. They joined in our silly pranks, dancing with the trouble. It makes it so much easier to bear it with a bubble. Finally, Lou-Roll helped us bandage up a wound, and a father of a child wore a nose and with us gooned, and surgical gloves on his ears, shower capped his head, crossing face with masking tape. He played sick instead. A full frontal lobotomy performed by 6 mad clowns, transformed tiny faces into smiles instead of frowns. A little toddler who had been in pain and quite distressed ended hugging a red heart balloon, and she blessed those of us who made it through our pain and all the fears to don our red noses and help transform the tears.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, so that was our experience of, I don't know where that's coming from, but it's just to, you know, to add that into this this whole thing of how to go into these places where there's so much pain and just trust, and somehow offering ourselves and knowing that it's a magic that we can bring.
Yeah, which feels like it leads me very much onto my next question, which is, how is the archetype of clown particularly suited to dealing with crisis? So what is it specifically about the clown archetype that sets it up to be, you know, a conductor of emotions, a releaser, a neutral? I don't know. I mean, what would you say? What is it about the archetype of clown? Hilary, some great thinking faces going on
here. Yes, heavy thinking. I think it was also partly the word heavy that Rachel mentioned, and sort of the unburdening or the lessening of distress. That reminds me really of the activists that we worked with so much. That they were coming from a place, quite a stressed place. And a negative place of feeling angry, of feeling burnt out, of feeling they couldn't go anymore with their protests, that they didn't know what to do. And for them, I think the ability to clown and to play really released, in a way, their sense of responsibility, of having to be angry and negative, and enable them to really feel light, and to feel a sense of responsibility to play, which, you know, release such a lot of amazing energy, and I think really rekindle their spirits, and enable them to maybe fight, if the word is the right word, to confront and to protest in a slightly different way, in a lighter way that actually fed them. And I think it's about, a lot of it is about that, about feeding ourselves, and that energy of being fed, and finding another way of, you know, another avenue, method or strategy, and clown provides that. I'm not sure that there's an archetype necessarily, but that everybody find the way that they clown, to find that lightness and playfulness that enables them to be different, and to work differently, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So starting with the self, starting with you, embodying the archetype of clown has an impact on the world. And just coming back to you briefly, Hilary, what impact, or could you give us an example of the impact it had on whoever it was that you were encountering through the protest? So being met through the archetype of the clown.
Yeah, well, I think, obviously, as I said, just working with people who were very, very, sometimes very stuck in the fact that they felt they had to protest and be angry and know everything in order to protest, and to say, actually, as a clown, you don't no, really, you really don't know anything. So I think that was a difficult threshold to go over, to let go of control. And somehow, by letting go of control, activists, I think, were able to gain much more control, in fact, and feel more vulnerable, yet stronger. So I think those are examples. I mean, they're, again, general examples. But then when we came to the police, or the army, but the police in particular, the British, the UK police, there were times when we were able to really cozy up, in a way, almost, to the police, and to kind of wrong foot them, just by being different, by not protesting, by not being angry, by not battering ourselves against them, but by saying, oh, what do you do, kind of thing. And oh, okay, we can do that too. Yeah, we can be very stern and very severe. So a sense of parody, but also for me, I guess it's you know, however much I'm angry, I can see that there has to be a person somewhere within that uniform or authority or whatever it is, and somehow I'm trying to find that person and to say hi, or could I just polish your boots maybe, or let me just shine that button. So it's a sense of trying to find the humanity, I suppose. I think I've gone off the tangent now.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. I think that's what I meant to draw out of you, but you got there by yourself. Yeah, that's the unexpected, the power of the unexpected, and the power of humanizing. And I find that a lot with clowning. I find that just wanting to play, wanting to find the human, and wanting to find a playful connection just sort of seems to dissolve any kind of weird status, like, you know, normal. Does this is that the same with you, Sabine? Are you finding that I'm coming back to the sort of original question, which is the archetype of clown. How does the clown function in protest for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to do with the stupidity of the clown in this stupid world. It works, you know. I mean, and then obviously the playfulness, the game, the hope, because we all need hope in a context of a protest, and then we kind of try to decide every time, do we want to be the clowns who are there just to thank everyone that they're there? Thank you, protesters, that you're here. Thank you for the effort. Or do we want to sometimes be the ones just, you know, stupidly thanking the government for the great things they're doing? Thanking the police, and I agree also with Hillary, like the approach to the police in protest is so much easier with clowns, because we find humanity in this contact, and then we take it from there in a way or another.
Yeah, the great levelers. Clowns are great levelers, aren't they? It's very simple. It's very simple. Let's find a game. Can we find a game? Is there a game we can play together? Can you speak to that, Faith?
I think, it's incredible, the games that we can play, no matter in what situation, being clowns. As I said, in the hospitals, we are called giggle doctors. We're not called clowns. We used to be called clowns, and we don't wear the nose. We used to wear the nose. We no longer wear the nose. So we really have to find that playful clownness within our hearts. We've got to really find it. And I know when Hillary was saying she went out with the mask, and she was having that thing, the incident just a couple of days ago, when you had your mask on. It's for us to find some sort of mask that we can wear in the hospital, that even though there's nothing on our faces apart from me, I have lipstick and whatever funny clothes we have on and stuff like that, but to find that sense of play within ourselves, within our hearts, that we can actually then connect with the young people and the children. And I think the clowns aren't the smartest people anyway, as it is. So it's quite empowering for some young people that are in crisis. Say, for example, if they are suicidal and they're in the hospital and they come across a giggle doctor, and because we tend not to be the smartest, we will have a conversation about anything with them, you know, and we can break through, we can have breakthroughs with young people. And I recently had one just before the lockdown, with a young person that was in the hospital for because he tried to commit suicide. and he was really, really angry, really angry. And the nurses were really concerned because no one could get through to him, and he, you know, and he wasn't going home. That's why he was really, really angry. And he had the curtains around him, and he didn't want to see anyone. And they said, "Oh, why don't you have a go? Why don't you have a go and see if he can just sort of connect to you somehow?" So, you know, not being the smartest person, I popped my head around the curtain and just asked him a simple question. And of course, he could see me, he saw what I looked like, and that had an effect on him. But just asked him a simple question with regards to the difference between rap and grime. Can you explain that to me? And it was like, that's just what he needed to think. You don't know the difference between rap and grime? Oh my gosh, I know all about this. So it just changed his his whole self just changed, because he was able to he was empowered. And he was able to educate me and forget all of the anger that he was feeling, and just educate me in something that he felt that he knew a lot about.
Yeah.
So that is what, you know, because as clowns, we aren't the smartest people, as it were. That's what we're not. We can, like that little baby that's just come on board, Sabine's little baby, that childlikeness, that innocence that you have, that you don't know, the unknowing, you can actually really break through lots of crises. You can have a breakthrough somehow.
Yeah.
And
there's something coming up for me while I'm listening to you, Faith, about ego, about I think there's a huge part of the process of learning to be a clown, or in my experience, this has definitely been part of my process of learning and now teaching, is about ditching the ego, or maybe not ditching the ego, maybe becoming aware of when impulses are coming from ego and when impulses are coming from love, because ego gets in the way. In my experience, ego gets in the way of connection, because I'm coming in with my ideas about how this is all going to work. And so to be a clown is to let go of the ego and go, how can I serve this situation? How can I connect? How can I find my way into your world? Which it sounds like exactly what you did there. You were like, okay, none of my material is going to work here in this scenario, so let's tune into you. Where are you? Grime and rap. Okay, I'm the kind of clown that knows about grime and rap, which feels what a lovely gesture to kind of to be continuously opening up to what's the game that we can play here? How can we connect here? Rather than to coming in with force and this is what we're going to be doing and this is how it's going to work. And I know, Rachel, I've got a feeling you might have a lot to say about this, the role of ego in clown.
I don't know if I've got a lot to say about it. I don't know. I'm trying to think now, because do put the rain again. Well, I think about love, actually. That was what was coming to me. And right from when Hilary started actually talking about anger, you know, and how to, with activism. And actually, when you very first asked me to be on this conference, I thought crisis and clown. What do I know about? And then activism and politicism. And what I saw was this tree. I remembered seeing about a report about the woman that was protecting the redwood tree, and she was sat in the tree. I don't think it was a redwood tree. She just sat in it. Was it or lived in it? Was it for 2 years or something? I don't know. Somebody may know the details of this, but and she said she spoke about it after. She said, "Well, I didn't do it because I was angry. I did it because I fell in love with the tree." And I just thought, this is just so glorious. This is which spoke to me about the whole thing about whatever we're servicing our putting our clowning in service to, whether it is on the street activism against something, whether it's in hospitals, whether it's with refugees, whether it's with our students. It's just in service to something that is beautiful and loving, and so that then we become agents of change in a way that's quite different than if we go out being angry. And talking about work with the police as well, I mean, I did just something else that came to me, which is not necessarily about love and ego, but I just had a memory of being in the march against the Iraq war, and I did that as a clown and chained myself to railings and things. And I had a fabulous time. And I also remember seeing something where years ago, I think it was from A Clown Sans Frontier, one of the first, going way back to the 90s, but I saw this image of a gun and a clown just putting a flower in the end of the gun, as a policeman's gun. And, you know, this is where we can bring our loving hearts. I mean, really, clowns do it with their hearts. That's what somebody once wrote. Clowns do it with their hearts. And I think if we come from that place, whatever we're doing, even if we are in hardcore activism place where there's a lot of difficulty and violence, we can twist it. And lastly, just to say something else that was coming through this conversation was a memory that something else that Wavy Gravy said, that when he first started, and this is back in the 60s, he was the one that stood up in, you know, said breakfast in bed for 400,000 at Woodstock. He said that when he first was going to activism, he was getting beaten up by the police and locked up and all sorts of things happened to him. When he started doing it as a clown, you know, he stopped getting beaten up. And I just thought, this is gorgeous. This is where we, you know, we can really make a difference. And I think we are bridge builders. I mean, I see that that's our part of the role. Anyway, part of the role is to build these bridges between these different, and we need it now more than ever because of where we're at globally, you know, with these, yeah. Anyway, that's, I wasn't answering the question either, but it just came out.
That's what we needed. We needed the blur. Just what we needed. So, I've got more questions, but I'm realizing what the time is. Oh, Hilary has something else she needs to add. Yes, now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a very fine line that we tread as activists and clowns. That because I don't want to give the impression that you know, I'm not angry about certain things, a lot of things in the world, the state of the world. So there is anger there, and I think maybe when Faith said it's about twisting it or finding the way to come at it, come at the way of dealing with that, maybe through clowning that changes it. But I suppose for me, with the clowning, there has to be the dig. Which is, in terms of the rebel clowning, there has to be the little sort of, you know, and maybe that's questioning somebody having, you know, in authority, like having got close to them, maybe physically or through some parody, and then putting that position of power into question through my own clowning work. So, for me, there still has to be that I don't know what you want to call it, strand or through line of I want to make a difference to I want to change. I want change, and some of it's going to be painful. Hopefully not for me. But for maybe the people in the big boots, I don't know. I mean that's making it very simplistic. But yeah, for me there has to be a spitefulness and something within the clown, or an edge. There must be the edge there as well.
The dark and the light, the dark and the light. So I've just noticed what the time is. So the next few questions, I reckon let's go a bit quick fire. So maybe let's have 2 people answer the following questions. Because I sort of want to get this one in there, because the dark and the light, the dark and the light. I'm obsessed with both. And I think the clown is a great vehicle for exploring both. But anyway, the dark and the light. What the next question is, when is it not appropriate to send in the clowns? So have you ever had any hairy moments when it just has not been appropriate to be a clown in this situation? Sabine.
Never. That's my answer.
Wow.
Always appropriate.
Wow. Anyone else had a hairy moment?
Yes, I've had loads of hairy moments. Yes, mostly around here as I've got older. But Yeah, I split one particular one in that has stayed with me all these years, and this is now nearly, I don't know, 30 years. But I did some clowning with Crisis at over Christmas one time in some of the homeless shelters, and I went in with a candle, all dressed as a clown angel and all best intentions, and somebody and came toward was meeting people in wherever they were and playing in various different ways, and a chap that I got close to somebody and he came at me with a knife, and I think it was a butter knife or something, because they didn't, weren't allowed their actual implements in there. It wasn't actually going to slash me, but he did come towards me like that, and I had to turn it very quickly into a playful situation, so it became like a sort of sparring between my candle and his knife. But it was very edgy, and but it was it was fun, but his first intention was to hurt me. And then I realized later he actually had a scar on his cheek, so something had happened that I had just coming to him from that, but I just hit that place in his psyche that was remembering the wounding that he'd had. But it took me a while to process it afterwards. It was a very strong moment. I mean, there's lots of moments, but that's just one that's come to mind.
I had, thinking back to being a street performer when I used to be a street clown, and working in the Welsh villages at the very beginning when they first started doing Sunday shopping, because before that there weren't any Sunday shopping. So they used to hurl us out onto the streets to entertain the Sunday shoppers, to try and get them out of their houses. And oh dear, they didn't have a lot of time for the clowns in the Welsh villages of South Wales. And but we'd be there on the street, doing our shows. It was the winter, freezing, hard nipples, like shivering, but getting through our material, doing our shows, and to like deserted streets. And then at the corner of our eye, we'd look and we'd realise they're watching us from inside the shop. They're standing in the shop in the warm, and they're watching us through the window. So so maybe they're not willing to come and play and interact with us. Maybe that's not the deal with this interaction, but they are watching and they're taking us in and they're having an experience. So yeah, I can relate to that. It's not always what they think they need. So more questions. I'm moving on to the next questions, which are around mental health, just because we're having a lot of questions in the chat box which is around mental health, which is great. Thanks for bringing those questions in. And actually my next question, I think it just about sort of fits in with what's being asked here, which is the person behind the clown, if there is such a thing. I don't know if you separate yourself from your clown. What do you do to sustain yourself? And there was a lovely question that came through. Yeah, how do you keep a light heart as a clown in crisis? And so yeah, there's quite a few questions coming through about you, the performer, you, the human. What do you do to sustain yourself when you're working in crisis zones? Who'd like to speak to that? It's Faith.
I'll mute myself. Thank you. I do, for me, actually, I sustain myself because I'm a Buddhist. And my Buddhist practice, I chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and it's my Buddhist practice that keeps me sustained. I have to really chant every day before I go out into the world and out into the hospital environment to be able to actually, whatever comes to me, I'm able to take it into my life and transform it and move it into something, turn it around into something, create value from it. So for me, chanting's really important. And also if I have faced some, a child that I've been working with has passed away, I'm able to come back home and I'm able to really chant and have my own Buddhist ceremony to celebrate their life. So for me, I have to really look after my spiritual self. The stronger I am spiritually, and the more love I give to myself spiritually, the more I feel I can give it to other people.
Yeah, I hear that. Thanks, Faith. Anyone else want to speak to that? Hilary.
Yeah, I find that the actual clowning itself sustains me, because I feel that I'm the most me when I'm clowning, and a rebel clown, I guess. And so the feeling that I can actually be me, myself, in the face of whatever authority or whatever crisis, whoever I'm working with, sustains me. I think it's the play in itself, the clowning in itself, and of course, really food. Okay.
Yeah. Anyone else want to speak to that briefly? Rachel?
Yes, I'm passionate about self-care because I was so crap at it for about 40 years. So I've finally had to really take myself in hand and learn a lot about it over the last 20 years, I would say. And nature is getting into nature is, for me, is just medicine. I have to have contact with the natural world. I sit in a tree every day. I go and sit in a pine tree. I have a medicine wheel there, and I say my prayers to the 4 directions. I have a spiritual practice that really sustains and holds me, and lots of things: writing, poetry. Poetry for me is something that actually also keeps my connection to the poetic sensibility, which a clown needs to develop to be I think, to be really good clowns. We're very fine beings, and yeah, and so I spend a lot of time reading poetry, and good physical self-care. Yeah, love food, good food, plenty of tea, and support. Because it was one of the questions you sent to us before the webinar, and I wrote down support. I think to have contact with others, because so many clowns work alone, and I have some clown soul sisters that I connect with and share, so that anything that is too big for me alone, that we can, just through sharing it, we can transmute it. And then all the practices of the clown. Play is the medicine. So I sing, laugh, dance about, keep moving the stuff physically through my body, because I'm encountering a lot of sadness all the time, working with people who are with death and dying, or in difficult places, So yeah, it's transformative medicine, but I've got to actually work with it in myself in order to be able to bring it to others. Yeah.
Oh, lovely to hear all of that. I just remembered I did a meditation retreat earlier on this year, and it was about kind of self-care, really. It was kind of bringing in qualities of self-care, and the meditation teacher was talking about compassion fatigue, and he was saying, often, people who give a lot to others suffer with this thing they call compassion fatigue. And he said, is it compassion fatigue, or is it joy deficiency? And this just made me go, okay, so to give joy to others, to bring joys to others, it takes huge amounts. And for me, I have to keep filling the well. I have to keep making sure that I'm taking care of myself and giving myself joy that isn't just about me giving, but also, me receiving, me accepting, me absorbing. And that's, it's taken a while. Similarly, Rachel, it's taken me a while to learn how to do that, because my default, I was born on the stage pretty much, so my default is to give to others. And great, you need something, great, I've got that. So learning to accept and learning to take and learning to absorb has been a real journey. Sabine, do you have anything you'd like to say about what sustains you to be able to do the work you do?
Yeah, I think I agree a bit more with Hilary, where clowning is helping me to sustain myself. I mean, it's the play, it's also knowing and reminding myself that really life is hard and life is unfair, and everybody I encounter with, refugees stuck in the Balkans on a minus 18 degrees Celsius and living in really shitty conditions, and then just like these moments of joy and hope we give them in these moments, are completely returned to us straight away in the moment. And this is what keeps me going. And so when in crisis, I clown more. And then, of course, I clown, and we're a group, so we support each other so much, and then we laugh together, and laughter is healing.
So strong coming through about support. Yeah, and in the Buddhist tradition that I follow, it's about Sangha, it's about community, it's about like-minded, which actually makes me feel very much like, look what we're doing it right now. We've been called together to have this conversation and to connect with you out there in the audience, this community, this little community that we are. Hilary, did you have one more thing you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I just, and it comes really, I suppose it sort of follows what you said now. For me also, I think there's saying in the clowning, because the clowning is with others, and you're always working with audiences, however that is, whether they're together with you or whether you are doing something towards them, behind them, whatever it is. But there's that exchange for me is when and when somebody makes themselves vulnerable enough to laugh or feels okay to laugh or has that release, and or even gives you permission to play from an audience. That exchange is so powerful to me, and it's a recognition between 2 people or 5 people or whatever it is, and that for me is sort of engenders more of those feelings and transformations in a way. So it's really the clowning that then creates those exchanges, I think, with people.
Yes, clown power, clown power. There was a question that I was working with in an open space discussion actually, that was, can clowning be the answer to everything? Could it be the answer to everything? Yeah, I don't know. I think from what we've heard so far tonight, I'd say maybe. So now comes the point. We're at a junction in our debate. We have been chatting for nearly an hour, and in a moment, we're going to make you an offer to come up onto the panel if you'd like to come and join us in this little community that we've created, if you'd like your face to appear on the screen. We are doing this conference off our own backs because we really want to. We're not getting any funding to do this. We're doing this because it needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. So we just did it. So if you'd like to support us, you're completely welcome, and you could just chuck in a £5 if you can, or whatever you can put in. A couple of quid would be great, and that's to cover us. That's really to cover the organisers of the event that have put in weeks to make all of this stuff happen, because we love it, because we love this work. So if you can't give us any money, it's fine. Don't feel guilty, don't run away, but if you can, then thank you so much. You're really supporting us to do this work and to do it well, and thank you. Yeah, come on up, come on up, come on up. Yay, here's Ozzy. Anyone else? So this is going to be a chance for you to chat a little bit about your experience, what's come up for you through the discussion. Maybe there's more questions, and I know there were more questions that came up in the Q&A. I couldn't quite get through all the questions because it was such a meaty discussion. So if you want to come up and actually ask the questions yourself, then please feel free to do that. Hi Robbie, where's Sophie? Oh, okay. Hi Claire. Clowns. Hi clowns. Hi Jen. Welcome. Come on up, come on up. Yeah. Anyone else want to come up? You cannot yet. So I'm going to continue with these questions while people are still sorting themselves out. If you want to come up, raise your hand, find the raised hand button, and you'll get put up onto the panel. But I'm going to ask one of these questions while we're just waiting for everybody to get sorted. Oh, I've got a question who says, I would like to take my clowning to my local hospice once it's safe to do so. Rachel and Faith, do you have any advice?
I guess I would say find out about the hospital, go and have a meeting first. And I mean, I don't know if that's the preliminaries have been done, but certainly how we went about it when we were starting was we went and met the to the people at the hospice and talked to, as ourselves, and spoke about what we would like to do, told them a bit about our work, and we looked around the place and we got a feeling for who was there, and we asked about the church, well, there were adolescents in one part, children in another. I also did work in an adult hospice. So I would say find out, get a lot of information and find out where, how open they are to it. And I don't know who the person is or if you've had experience before at clowning, but I'm assuming you have, whoever's asked this question. I would say also it's quite good to go with somebody else, not on your own first time. So you've got support, because it's it's very emotionally moving work. And yeah, and in terms of what to do, the other thing I would say about it is it's really more about the quality of being, as clowning always is, but especially in those places where people are in these such delicate states of health. So yeah, just go in and be open and take very light, find out what they're open to as well, whether bubbles are allowed, whether you can take musical instruments, whether, just find out what you can take and keep it simple, keep it really simple. I just say, funny, at one time I went and I just had a little bag full of props, and this was in the Isle of Man. It was an adult hospice, and I went in and I had a kettle. Actually, it's a kettle that I walk around with, and people put their hand in the kettle and pull things out, and they don't know what's coming out. And a woman pulled out a hair roller, and she had a scarf with a bald head, because of course all her hair had gone from chemo. So she just tucked the roller underneath her scarf, which was fantastic. So I mean, you just need very little to play with,
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Rachel. Well, look, I think we're here. I think this is the gang for now. Hi, gang. Thanks so much for coming up on the screen. Susie, I can see your hand is up. So here is a chance for you to, ask us a question or share something about your own practice. Share about something about your own experience of clowning in crisis. Susie.
Thank you very much, Holly, for allowing me. Great Ormond Street got in touch with me and asked me could I organise quite a few performers because there was a lot of children with cancer. So it wasn't even to do with COVID as such, it was to do with children with cancer. And they wanted performers to send in videos. And they said it was an ongoing experience because the children don't stop having cancer in Great Ormond Street. So they'd be really, really happy to receive videos of performers to help the children so that they can watch them while they're in hospital. And I can give Holly contact.
Great. Are you curating that? Are you putting that together?
Pardon?
Are you putting that together?
I've already done it. I've done 2 rounds of it, but I will give you the contact details of the lady, and you can pass that information on so that as many performers, it doesn't have to be just clowns. It could be, when I say just clowns do lots of things, music and all sorts of other things. So the children would be really pleased. I mean, I've sent them a 3 Little Pigs animation video as well as other things. But
great. Who else would you like to share something of your own practice, your own experience? Would you like to ask us a question? It's Ozzy.
Hello. It's really lovely to be here with all of you. Thanks for doing it. I just wanted to share some of my experience with Rebel Clowning and ask maybe a question to all of the panelists, everyone who's joined. So last year I was involved in some Rebel Clowning, and it was amazing. And we were clowning in Trafalgar Square, and it was going really well. There was a lot of what you were saying about humanizing the police. There was a big line of police tape, and we all went up to it, and then the cops were like, "Oh, don't touch that," and we all, got as close as we can and danced our fingers along the line. We were like, "Oh, don't touch," and it was amazing. And a comedian, I don't know if you know him, he's called Dapper Laughs. He's a right-wing YouTube guy. He filmed it and he put it on his channel, and the video went viral of us arresting a piece of broccoli. And it got onto a lot of like right-wing like Facebook pages and just all over like that sort of like part of the internet, and there was a lot of like quite horrible comments on it, and I got broccoli shouted at me in the street a couple of times, but
Same.
yeah, and it was really disheartening because we were getting a lot of like sort of quite horrible comments from people online, and then also a lot of comments from like fellow activists saying that we were, you know, making a mockery of the movement and like kind of not doing real work, and we were just like, you know, doing all the fun bits but none of the real work. And I meet a lot of activists who talk a lot about in terms of anger and kind of like not letting pleasure live in their bodies anymore. Like I met someone the other day who wouldn't even let himself enjoy having a cup of coffee because he was like, we're at war, can't enjoy it, we're at war. And then the day after the video went viral, I saw a clown trying to put down a pop-up tent as like a roadblock, and his trousers were falling down and his wig was coming off, and these cops that had literally 5 minutes before been cutting people out of hammocks and being really like violent and militaristic, they were scuffing their shoes like they were naughty school kids. Honestly, they did not know what to do with themselves. And I just wondered if any of you had any advice about sort of living in that gap between what other activists or other doctors or other, you know, midwives or hospice nurses deal with in what they do in their work, and like between like other clowns who were entertainers. Like how do you like deal with kind of living in this weird little boundary between like that? Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, but
yeah, no, that was good. But I think, Hilary, because you straddle so many worlds, I wonder whether you want to speak to that. Ooh,
it's so amazing, Ozzy. Thank you so much for that, for saying that, because I think for example, when Circus started out, it was, you know, specifically for the G8, and it kind of mushroomed and then tailed off a little bit. And it's great to hear that there are more gaggles and people using the rebel clowning still. But I think we will always come up against people who can't feel that pleasure for whatever reason in clowning, and feel that and therefore they can't see that what we are doing is real work. And I think it's that whole thing about serious play, and you are doing so much within that relationship between authority, between you and authority, between you and yourselves as clowns, and also between you and the activists, those people who won't let you be, won't let themselves be the clown. And it's also about, okay, that's not their way. And you know, we can't transform, we can't go around thinking, oh God, how am I going to make that person, you know, be a clown, or what can I do about myself? And I think it's about really feeling your ground and standing your ground and saying, that's what I'm here to do. My job is this clowning, and this is what I do, and it's as valid as anything else. I'm not saying, okay, it is more important. I mean, I think it's great. Yeah, is clowning the answer to everything? I would love to say yes. I'm not sure. But I think, Ozzy, what you're doing is so important. And that gap is so important as well. Straddling that gap and feeling that discomfort. It's not, I don't think it's about finding a balance necessarily. For me, it's about going from one thing to the other and feeling that discomfort of, oh, I'm in the difficult zone now. And oh no, I'm not, I'm in the zone where I'm comfortable now. And I think I'm burbling now. Okay,
There's
somebody
so-
else say something.
There's something for me as well about just where you put your anchor, and I think that's what we talked about before. What do you do to sustain yourself as a clown? What do you do to sustain your practice? And that's I find when I'm trying to put my anchor on the audience exchange, then that leaves me really vulnerable. If I'm trying, if that's the thing, the main thing that feeds me, then I feel vulnerable. So for me, I need to have my anchors elsewhere as well. So yes, the play feeds me, but also I have a meditation practice, I have a big community, I have a lot of time in nature. I do these things so that I can feel really grounded, so that when these things happen, because of course when I put myself in the public realm, I'm going to get criticism, because people will see me doing whatever the fuck I want to do all the time, and that will trigger people. People will look at me and go, oh well, why aren't I allowed to do everything I fucking want to do all the fucking time? Oh god. And so I do get, we got trolled this week. We went on Bristol TV internet telly, we got trolled. Robin bore the brunt of it this time, but it's part of putting myself in the public realm that not everybody is going to get it. There will be criticism. So how do I take care of myself? How do I sustain myself so that I'm not reliant on people getting it and loving it and wanting it? So I don't know, there's something there for me. Does that answer your questions? Do you feel satisfied with those answers?
I do. Thank you very much, both
Good.
of you, everyone.
Does anyone else have something you want? Yes, Hilary. I saw your hand there, Vicky.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to say that I have quite a straight job, in a sense of I teach at a university, and that is sometimes for me the most, staff meetings can be the most uncomfortable and feel like a straitjacket, because a lot of people, clowning is quite, although I'm in a performance area, the actual action of clowning within staff meetings or discussions about students is still not really acceptable. And so for me, I'd rather be on the street with police or protesters or some angry activists than necessarily trying to find my way through a staff meeting as a clown, for example.
Oh, I feel your pain. Vicky, you're muted.
Hi. So yeah, I'm waiting to be birthed as a clown. I've been planning to be birthed as a clown for many years and been busy with other things. So one day you'll hopefully see me pop up. And so I kind of came along to a bit of the conference this weekend because I thought it'd be just interesting to delve into this world a little bit. And that's fascinating for me personally, but it's also triggered lots for me professionally. So I'm an educational psychologist. And hearing some of you talk about some of the work you're doing and thinking about the potential for that in my work was really interesting, because I do lots of recommending that children have emotional literacy programs where they're going to learn how to manage their emotions and all that kind of thing, which is fabulous. But I thought, this is interesting, and maybe there's a place for this in our schools, or supporting young people who have kind of dropped off the radar a bit and need bringing out of their houses and all those sorts of things, who are finding it really difficult to engage. And actually, here are some people that might be able to tap into something that's a bit different for them. So I just love, I work in Wiltshire. So if there's anyone who has something to offer in the Wiltshire area, would be prepared to come and do that, I'd love to make contact with you and discuss what that might be. And if you can provide some evidence base for me around sort of the drama therapy side of things, maybe then I can take that to my team and see what is thought about it and what openings there might be.
Thank you. Oh yes, so that's Becky's just put in the chat box that Giles Brandreth, I was on ITV's This Morning this week, and Giles Brandreth, who's famous in the UK, for those who don't know, he saw the little bit that I did about clowning, and he said clownotherapy, which is what I've coined the thing that I do, clownotherapy should be on the national curriculum. So
yeah,
that's getting tweeted about, and I agree. I mean, I think I agree. it's a place where you can be free to express and to explore and to not know. And wow, if kids are given permission to do that all the way through their childhoods, then wow, what kind of adults would they make? Faith, would you like to talk to that? Oh, you're muted.
Do this tonight. Sorry about this. No, I was thinking about actually, you know, the clowning can be used anywhere. It can unlock anything and anyone. And if you think about the program they have in America, where they go into prisons, the Actors Gang, and it all stems from Commedia dell'arte, and they work with long-timers, as they were, you know, who are incarcerated for years and years and years and years and years. And these men are angry. And you can understand why they're angry, because some of these men have been incarcerated when they are absolutely innocent. But because of the color of their skin, they have been incarcerated and they have been found guilty without a trial. You know, it's absolutely terrible. We know what America's like. And they've used this art of clowning. They've gone in, they don't call it Commedia dell'arte, and they've gone in and they have, in a way, these guys that are in gangs, that are fighting against each other, will knife each other. They've gone in there and they've used Commedia dell'arte to enable these men to actually tap deep emotions that's in their life. And they're able to tap the emotions and their humanity and see how life can be. And they're transformed. They're transformed through the art of Commedia dell'arte, which is clowning, which is, you know, we know. And so it's an incredible tool to have that tool in schools, working with young people to enable them to tap that bone that's there that needs to be tapped, would be incredible. So I think it can be used anywhere. And I know if we don't know about the dance move, the dancing called crumping. I don't know if you've heard of crumping.
Can you show us?
I can't do it, but they call it clowning. It started in like 1992. It was invented in America, but it all comes from clown dancing. And they formed this style called crumping, you know, and which I think probably became sort of hip hop or something. I don't know, but it grew.
So it's not eccentric dancing then?
Well, I don't know. It probably is, but it's like, you know, it's about, it comes from clowning. It was a clown that started this form of dancing that went into crumping. So, you know, it can really go into, I think, clowning and the art of clowning, and what you can do from clowning can really tap that playfulness, that innocence, can really tap the play within people, because everyone has that play. Everyone has it. It just needs to be tapped, doesn't it? And clowning can tap it.
It can, it does. So look, I think we might have time for one or two more people. Is there anybody here? Oh, Claire.
Hello. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been great listening to all of you. So I am doing a dissertation. I'm in my third year of university, and I did clowning last year and I absolutely loved it. I loved the whole experience. It really helped me a lot because I was diagnosed with anxiety and panic attacks. And so university, the first couple of years was a struggle. But when I started doing clowning, I noticed the effect that it had on my mental health. And so I decided that for my dissertation, because I wanted to continue doing clowning in the third year, that I was going to do a dissertation on the mental health of the clown, because there's a lot been written about like how clowning helps people who suffer with mental health, but I wanted to focus on the clown and the actor behind the clown. So I guess my question is kind of similar to what we've already talked about a little bit, but yeah, like with your experiences, how has clowning helped you, and you know, how could clowning help other people, like through a clown, how can we show other people how they can deal with their anxieties and mental health?
Susie's got a hand up for this one. Yeah.
I've always suffered from anxiety and mental health, but I haven't always shown it. But the way it manifests itself is that before a show, I would be very, very wound up. And of course, I've been pregnant 3 times whilst clowning. And I've had to just get on with it, basically. And it doesn't matter how much I felt before I did a show or workshop, but after the show and workshop, I was a different person than before the show and workshop. And I have all my family to verify that. And I've always suffered anxiety whilst clowning, but I still try overcoming it. And I've had quite a lot of major illnesses and found that clowning, so it's not only helping other people, it helps myself. It helps my inner being to feel that, to feel that I'm doing something to help other people.
Thanks, Susie.
Yes, could I just offer a link to some, well, I won't, perhaps I could put it in the chat, but it's an article by Peggy Andreas that's called The Path of the Sacred Clown, and it might be really useful for, I forget the name, is it Claire, who just asked the question about anxiety and so on, because it talks in that article about how very often the Heyoka, that's the sacred clown in the Native American tradition, her initiation is often the result of extreme abandonment or a suicide attempt or some mental breakdown of some kind, and it's like it's this dancing on the knife edge of your own soul to come into this sacred dimension when you see the connection between everything, which is really what happens with a clown on our journey, where we see that all is one. So it's a very going through emotional states and mental states of anxiety, depression, breakdown, very, very common for people who are on the clowning journey, in my experience, both for myself and as a teacher. So I highly recommend that article. It kind of verbalizes it in such a beautiful way and brings it into the sacred dimension.
Lovely. I've seen that article. It's great. And yeah, it's what I explored for my master's dissertation, was looking at bringing together clowning and drama therapy and mindfulness as well. And I've got a blog I've written all over that about how the experience has been for me of clowning, embodying the clown. So yeah, look all of that up. This event again is free. Please do lob us a fiver if you can. If you can afford to, please do. If you can't, don't worry. We are the Online Clown Academy. You can find us on Facebook. We've got a page and a group, and in the group you can find all of our clown workouts from the first lockdown. So we've got 6 weeks now, maybe more like 8 weeks of daily workouts. You could do one a day for 8 weeks. That'll get you through. You can do them any time of day. They're just on video. So do dip into the archives and find some clown workouts. And we are running our 4-week lockdown clowning course, which isn't called that, it's called Zoom Clown 1 now. So it's 4 weeks on Zoom of playing, of doing all the things that we've been talking about here, of a weekly dose of play in your living room. Oh my goodness. So look, I want to have a massive thanks to Bea and Robin, who've been behind the scenes doing this and supporting us. So massive thanks to you two for that. Massive thanks to all of our panelists tonight. We've had Rachel Kane, we've had Faith Tingle, we've had Sabine Choucair, we've had Hilary Ramsden. You've been brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with us. This has been amazing and really nourishing and really delicious for my soul. So big thanks for that. And thanks for all of you for coming. It's just been brilliant to have your faces here. It's so lovely to see your faces at the end, everybody. And yeah, hopefully see a lot of you again tomorrow evening. And if not tomorrow, then soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. Thanks, Holly. Thanks, Robin. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Bea.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you all.
Thank
bye,
you.
Bye.
Au revoir. Accessoire.
Yes.
Au revoir.
Adios.
Adios, amigos.
Adios.
A bientôt.
A bientôt. Ciao. Ciao, Bella. Ciao. 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 Ciao.
Get out of here.
How do you leave? How do you get out? You can't get out.
You press leave.